All right, my informal, formal way of addressing the nation today. So, here's the thing, folks. It's been a crazy year. I'm just going to say this right now. Ever since in this last year, from this time to now, it has been a roller coaster of emotions. Tons of stuff. First of all, I just want to say this. I didn't vote for Trump, but I was willing to give him a chance. Okay. I said that, and, I was. And if I'm being perfectly honest, through 2018 especially, all he was to me was a combination of Reagan and Nixon with Twitter. And honestly, and some lewd language. And, honestly, they did some good things as president. And a lot of that's just who you ask. If you were a military person, especially during the Reagan administration, you would have loved it. I mean, coming up is the dedication of the Vietnam Veterans Memorial. And, he was president when that happened. And that war got really politicized. And it was actually winnable, and one could argue that they won it based on how, it's a matter of historical perspective. And, I'm learning a lot. And, the thing about, and I'm just going to say this right now, and this is going to be my big thing right here. And I think this needs to be the biggest message. And this is me playing some WebMD here, but I think I might be onto something. I have Asperger's syndrome, and I know people who are bipolar, okay? And what I think is that President Trump has, I think what he has is, I think he is an unmedicated, undiagnosed bipolar person. And I think this last year, even though we've all gone through a roller coaster of emotions, I think that what he has been doing and what has been happening with him is he's been going through a manic high. And I think that when Dr. Fauci, on a couple occasions, had the ability to, told him, that that COVID was an issue and that he should, stop travel and do some stuff, and warn him. I think that he was just feeling so good about himself, after having led a life of, constantly needing approval from an emotionally abusive father. I think that, he literally just maybe, he thought that he knew and that he could beat it, and he just kind of played WebMD, and this is my speculation. And I guess the message I'm getting at here is that, we need to stop stigmatizing mental health issues. That's the problem. I think that Trump would be a better off person regardless if he were president or not. I think that if he got some therapy and some medication and, the right support networks that didn't enable him to get what they wanted, I think he could be in a better place in his life as a human being, and the world would be. And I think that, it is very possible that, President-elect Biden he might be in the early stages of dementia. But the fact that we don't take the time as people to recognize the difference between, someone who maybe just poorly words something and, maybe just makes a poor choice of words and trying to do, different things. I think it's something that we need to address and stop stigmatizing. One thing right here is, this is my book right here, My Gift and My Curse, Living Life with Asperger's Syndrome. It's the first part of my autobiography. It's by Andrew Wissick. And this may seem like a shameless plug for me, to just try and get people to buy my book. But honestly, the two things that people like about the book, the two biggest, positive pieces of positive feedback about my book that everybody has said is that they like how honest it is, and they like how honest it is, and they think it's impressive that I can remember what I was thinking in that moment. And, and it is just that, my gift and my curse. And, the thing about it is that, we people, a big problem, and I think this is, you can't blame Trump for everything in this country. I think that, the fact that he's been president and he's been in that position of power and he hasn't known how to address issues that especially I think have been going on for a long period of time, has been the problem. And I think the fact that he's had people that have enabled him because they've been trying to manipulate him to get what they want personally, is what's wrong. But it's not him alone. It's us as human beings alone, and it's something that I've been guilty of as well. Part of the problem is that we as people, and I think this has especially been true since 1980, Americans have gotten too many preconceived notions of how another side acts. People assume, stereotypes exist for a reason. There is a degree of truth to stereotypes, all right? There are some heartless conservative neocons, who won't give any money to anybody. And, there are some people who just are only used to, living off of food stamps. And it's unfortunate that both those people live in their stereotypes that we assign them, as opposed to maybe getting to know them as people. There's those people become that, partly because, they live their life a certain way, but it's because we tell them that. A good parent tells their child, you can be whatever you want to be. I mean, granted, there's a little bit of, there's a lot of semantics to that statement, but at the same time, it's something that we have to quit having preconceived notions of each other. Maybe a Republican, someone might be a Republican, and it might, when they complain about taxes, it might not be because, they hate the government. Maybe they just want to, do stuff more philanthropically, and use the money at their discretion. That might be the case. I know a decent amount of conservatives that are like that. At the same time, and not all liberals, maybe they just, maybe they need a boost of confidence. Maybe a person who, maybe a woman who just keeps having children over and over again, and just keeps, I guess what people would call mooching off the system. Maybe she just, maybe she just needs a pat on the back, and as long as she keeps because if she doesn't get that and all we do is shame her, then she's going to keep living in that cyclical poverty. And that's what's going to happen. And, and we at the very least maybe need to try and do something to, to steer her kids, maybe even if not her kids in a positive direction. And church can be the right thing. It's not all, religion's not all bad. I mean, the past year, I didn't want COVID to be something that wrecked Trump. I didn't want that. I had a great time at the Bobby Schreiner FCA camp in 2019. And one of it's a wrestling camp, and I brought some kids, and I tell you, it's just one of those things where there were people of all different backgrounds there, and all different colors, everything. And I have my views on religion. I don't always care for conservative rhetoric and stuff like that as far as religious fundamentalism is concerned, but it had some positive things to it. And a lot of kids were hanging out with each other that wouldn't have otherwise hung out with each other if wrestling was there. So check out my book. I'll do a video that's maybe a little more thought out, but just want to throw that out there, So thanks, everybody. Appreciate you if you watched it listening. Thank you.